Hello and welcome to my video on how to set up Pterodactyl panel for Oracle Cloud VMs for free. So this video is going to show you how to set up both panel and wings, and how to get your Minecraft server fully set up, and then how to access it on FileZilla, and how to upload an already existing server. So now I'm going to run you through some of the features that are included in this. So obviously there is the console, which you can use like normal. In all of them there is a CPU, RAM and storage indicator, as well as them in graph format down here. You can have a full list of all your servers running, and you can have quite a few. And then in each of them, as well as the console, there's also an in-depth file manager, which allows you to upload files, as well as edit already existing ones, such as the paper.yml here, which I can go into. And plugins, I can go in and quite easily edit the config for luck perms if I wanted to. You can also set up databases. We won't be doing this in that video, however it is an option. You can schedule tasks such as running a backup every day or every hour or however often you want. I'll go over how to do that. Then there is also the ability to add sub-users, so you can add other admins to be able to access just the console, just have a look at the files, not edit them. You can do all that sort of thing. I'll run over that. Then there's backups. As I mentioned, you can do it automatically, or you can do them manually, and then they will appear here. You can download them, you can upload them, you can do whatever you want with them. Then there's also the ability to look at all the different allocations, and you can have several different ports leading to your one server. Then you can edit all of this stuff, such as startup command, and then there is the settings, such as a dedicated SFTP link and username to go directly to this server instead of having to navigate through all the folders to find it. Then if we go into the admin panel, there's also loads of other stuff, such as you can set names, descriptions. You can also set a limit on how much CPU it can use, how much of the RAM it can use, how much memory it can use, how much storage it can use. You can, as I said, assign ports, and then in startup you can change your startup command. You can choose whether you want to be running Minecraft or one of several other servers. This will just cover how to set it up for Minecraft. However, there are loads that can be done once you've got the initial panel and wings set up. You can also do it for all these sorts of things. As I said earlier, you can set up databases. Once again, we won't be doing this, however, it is an option. And then there's also the ability to reinstall and do all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that should be everything going over what's available. Now, let's get on to actually making the server. Okay, so before we go any further with this video, you need to make sure that you have got the correct ports forwarded. These are them on screen now, so you need 25565 for Minecraft, 80, 443, 8080, 20, 22, 22, 56, 57, and 55423. These are all the ones that you are going to need. Then, what we need to check is you need to set yourself up with a dedicated subdomain for you to access your panel. Now, you don't want this to be the same as what your users are going to use to connect to the server on Minecraft, because then they might be able to get to the login page and potentially access your server. So make sure you set yourself up with a dedicated actual thing to go to access your server. For me, I'm going to be using host as my subdomain, and then it's going to be host.hpcrafter.com as my thing that I use to connect. So once you've got all these ports forwarded both here and in PuTTY, and you've got yourself set up with a subdomain that you can use to connect, we're ready to install Pterodactyl. So, the way we're going to go about this is we are going to go to this GitHub, which will be linked in the description down below, and you're going to scroll down to the install-panel.sh, then you're going to click on it, and then we're going to click on raw, and then we're going to copy this. Then come into PuTTY, make sure we're in as root, and then type bash, bash space open brackets close brackets, then go back inside. Sorry, I forgot to mention you got to put an arrow pointing like that first. Then type curl space dash s space and then paste using the right click button so it looks like this. Then press enter. It'll warn you that because we're using ARM, it won't work. If you're doing this on just one of the non-ARM options, it won't come up with this. However, if you are doing it on ARM, like this video suggests, then it will bring up this. Just press yes, you want to proceed, press enter again, then just come up with a password. It can be as simple or as easy as you want. Make sure something you can remember. I have never actually needed to know it myself. Then for this, you're going to want to copy this link and go to it here, and then find your time zone. Okay, so for me it's Europe, and then because I'm in the UK, Europe, London. However, you find wherever your time zone is, copy it, paste it in, and then press enter. Then provide an email. For me, this is going to be admin@hpcrafter.com. It doesn't actually need to be a real email, so you can just do this with your domain at the end, admin at. This is not a real email, I haven't set it up yet, so it's not going to work, but it still does let me do it. And then press enter, set up the initial admin account, admin@hpcrafter.com. Then the username, admin, the first name, HP, last name, crafter. Obviously put your actual first and last names, don't put HP Crafter, unless you want to. Then press enter. Then the password. This is what you will use to sign in to the panel when we go there, so make sure you actually know this. Press enter. Then the FQDN of this panel. This is going to be what you are using to connect to your panel. So for me, it's host. Let me just yep, it is host. It's host.hpcrafter.com. Enter. Do you want to automatically configure the firewall? No, because you should have already done that. So press enter there. Warning, you'll get a bunch of warnings. So long as you have entered your actual domain name and not some kind of IP address, you'll be fine. Just press yes. Then once this comes up, press yes again. Make sure this says DNS verified, because that means it is actually pointing to your server instead of going off to somewhere random. As long as it does, check all of this is correct and you actually want it all to be like this, and then just press yes. And now it's going to take a while, and it's going to install all the stuff that we need for the panel, so I'll be back once it has done that. Okay, when you get to here, you just need to press A to accept, and then wait a few seconds for it to verify, and clean up all the challenges, and then it's installed. So now if we go to here, as you can see, we are at the login page. So here you're going to put either the username or the email, doesn't matter, and then the password that you came up with, and log in. So now that we're logged in, it's time to set up Wings. So Wings is what is actually going to communicate with your Minecraft server. So for that, we need to go back to the GitHub. We need to come back and back again, and this time install -wings.sh. Click on raw again, and copy that. Back in here, bash, space, there's the arrow, both the brackets, curl, space, -s, space, and then paste using right click in the GitHub link, and press enter. You will need to make the document, that's fine, press yes. Do you want to automatically configure a user? Yes. Enter. Come up with a password. Enter. Do you want to automatically configure the firewall? No. Do you want to automatically configure Let's Encrypt? No, we have already done that. That's what we use to connect on the dashboard. So press no. Proceed with installation. Yes. Now, while it's doing that, we're going to want to come back on here and click on the 3 cogs. Then click on locations, create new, call it node, and hit create. Then come into nodes, create new, name, main, location, make sure it's on node, node visibility, public or private, just leave it as public, FQDN, this is what you are using up here to connect, so host.hpcrafter.com, use SSL connection, that's what you want, because that's what gives it the HTTPS up here. We're not behind a proxy. Total memory, this is the total amount of memory on the server, so 24 gigabytes as long as you've set it as the maximum. Memory over allocation 0, total disk space, set that to about 4 gigabytes, provided that you haven't added a load of extra. Disk over allocation 0, leave the ports as they are unless you know what you're doing, and then press create node. Now it's time to now it's time to come back into here and go into configuration, click generate token, then triple click and copy all of that, okay, and then paste it into here. Then you're going to want to run sudo wings, oh whoops, sorry, you've got to actually press enter on it. One second. Right, so what happened there was when I copied, I accidentally also copied all of this, which meant it didn't work. So just copy what's in there and then paste it. And then once you've done that, then we run sudo wings, wait for this to get to where it says FTP listening, then press OK, come out here to nodes, and this should be green. As long as it is, then press Control C, and then paste this command, which will start wings properly, and then you refresh, this should stay as green. That means that you have done everything so far correctly. Now it is time to set up the nests. So now we come into nests, click on Minecraft, and then whatever it is that you would like to set up. For me, I'm going to be using paper. Then we're going to scroll down to where the Docker images are, and then we're going to get rid of the ones that are already in here, because these aren't designed for ARM. If you are using non-ARM processor, then just leave them as they are. However, if you're using an ARM processor, then you're going to need to change it. And what we're going to change it to is something different. Yeah, what we're going to change it to is we're going to come to this link, then you're going to scroll down all the way until you find ARM64 only images, and then find the version of Java that you want. So obviously for the latest, we need Java 16. And then we're going to copy this, come back into Pterodactyl and paste it in the Docker images, and then press save. And now if we come back into nodes, into our main node, click on allocation, come back in here, and then we've got a command to run, which will tell us what we need to put as the IP address. So if we run that, then it will give us this. So copy, and then paste it in there. Click on it, give it an alias if you want, you don't need to, and then put the port. This is the port you're going to use to connect to your server with. So for me, 25565. Submit. Perfect. And now we go on to servers, create new, give it a name, anything you want. I'm just going to call it first server owner. So it's you can either put the email or their name or whatever. Click on it. Leave that as it is. You can give it a description if you would like, so people know what they're doing. Leave the default allocation, leave the node, database limit, allocation limit, leave those as they are. However, the backup limit, I'm going up to 10, so I can show you how to set automatic backups, do regular backup, all that sort of thing. Then the CPU limit. Now, if you are only running one server, I recommend leaving it at 0, because this will mean that it will just have as much CPU power as it needs. However, if you are having several, then you will obviously need to set a percentage. So because this is a 4-core CPU, you can set it all the way up to 400%. If you allocate it at different percentages, then that will be allocated to this server, and you can allocate different amounts of CPU usage to each of your servers. However, I recommend having, at the very least, about 100 for each, because that means that it will have a single core dedicated to it. 100% is worth 1 core. That probably went over your heads, but just basically set it, if you're only using one, set it to 0. If you're using multiple, then allocate it out. Memory, set as much as you want. I'm going to set about 8 gigabytes. Disk space, about 25 gigabytes, so it's about half of my total, give or take a little bit. Should be more than enough. Nest, Minecraft, make sure that this, 1 second, sorry, it is working correctly. You change this to the one that you edited the Docker images for, so for me it was paper, and then this should change so that it includes the word ARM64. So if we go back to any of the others, then you'll notice it doesn't, and it's got various options. You want to make sure that you select the right one that you edited the Docker images for, and if you change to have then, say, a forward Microsoft, make sure you change the Docker images for that one as well. So for me, just on paper so far, scroll through, skip the install script, don't leave that deselected, leave all that as it is, and then click Create Server. So now we click up here on Pterodactyl, then that'll take us to the list of all our servers, and then we click on this one, then it will be installing. So if we give it a second, then it will finish, and we can then press Start. Chances are you will get an error very similar to this. If you didn't, you're very lucky, and it was matched, and the install script has actually managed to work. If you do get this error, don't worry. Go to paper, go to the paper downloads, or wherever it is that you've got your whatever version you're running, and find the build that you want. Download it. Give it a few seconds to download, and then when it does, you're going to have to press keep. Yeah. Then come into your downloads folder, or wherever it is that you downloaded it to. Rename this to server.jar. Then come on here, click on File Manager, Upload, server.jar, open, and then give it a second, and it'll upload it. I'll be back once it's uploaded. So now that our server.jar is uploaded, we can go back into the console and hit start. And then it might take a little while, however it should start the server. As you can see, the memory usage is spiking, memory usage and the CPU usage is going up significantly. When this appears, do you accept the EULA? Just press I accept, and then wait a few seconds, and the server will create the spawn region, and there you can see it's done. So now if we come back on here, refresh, then we can join the server. And then if we check back onto here, we can see everything. We can see everything in the console, and that I have just joined. So now we go back on here, I can move about, I can break stuff, and everything, and then if we come back on here, I can opt myself. And then, as you can see, I can fly around, and it's all working. So if we come back on here, then I can see it's not using too much memory, however that is just with me on right at this point without redoing it. So when you've got lots of people on, you can see how it will start to use more. So now if we stop that, then we can have a look at some of the other things that are available. So as I said, in the file manager, you can come in here and you can look at your plugins, you can download and you can upload them to there. You can go into any of these, such as the bucket, and you can edit them. It's got a very nice thing, and you can choose what sort of file it is. So it will change all of the editing stuff for you, all the colours, and that's that. Then there's schedules. So in the schedules, you're going to want to click to create a scheduled backup. You're going to want to give it a name, such as backup. Then in the minutes, put it as 0, and then the hour, put it the hour that you want it to happen every day. So for me, I want it to happen at 1 AM. I would put it like that. Whether you can figure this out, if you want to have it do it less regularly or more regularly, put it in here, and then it will say it'll do it at 1 in the morning. If I wanted it to happen on once every month, for example, then I would set it to be the first. So as you can see, at 1 on the day of the month, number 1. It's that simple. If I wanted it to happen once every year, I put that there. So at 1 in the morning on the day of the month 1 in January. Nice and simple. So you can set that up, and then you will just copy all of that across into each of these boxes, and it will work. So we click Create Schedule, then we go into the schedule, click New Task, change this to Create Backup. You can set any files that you don't want it to regularly back up. You can choose if you want it to happen after a few seconds. We can just leave that as without doing that for now, and click Create Task. So now every time at 1 AM, the server will run a backup. Then in Users, I'll show you that in a bit. In Backup, I can create a backup right now. Call it, for example, Backup 1. Then you can lock it. This means that unless you actually, explicitly unlock it and then delete it, it won't be deleted. So you can make sure you don't accidentally delete it. Start backup. Give it a second, and then there we go. We've had our backup made. And then you can use this. You can restore, you can download, or you can explicitly unlock it to then delete it. Then in Network, this gives you a list of all the ports that you can join from. Currently, we're only allowing the main one. In Startup, this is where it would list your Docker image to make sure you got the right one. You can change the build number, the Minecraft version, all of this sort of stuff. And then in the settings, it's got about our SFTP details. So this is how we would connect using FileZilla. So we open FileZilla, and then in the host box, we would copy this, go in here, paste it. Then the username box, actually just clicking on it will copy it. We put the copied username, and then for the password, it's the same as what you use to sign in to the main panel. Quick connect, OK, and then we're in. So now you have access to all these, and you can completely delete all of this, and then upload a fresh new world that you've already got straight onto it. So if you click on here, then you can go to the more advanced settings, which lets you change the name of it, an external identifier. You can leave that as it is. You can also change the server owner if you have more users, which I will show you how to do in a second. The build configuration, so you can change the CPU, so if you then add another server, you can change the amount of CPU it can use, the allocated memory. You can change all of this, as well as assigning additional ports. I'll show you how to do that in a second as well. Startup, you can change the startup command if you want to. There's no real need to, but you can. You can also change the Docker image if you have several, so if you want to do that. And then there's database, this way you would set up your databases. Well, I'm not doing that in this video. I may do a video on it in the future if it's needed, but not for now. Mounts, leave that as it is. Manage, you can reinstall the server, so if you're having problems, reinstall it. However, if the first time you tried to do it and it didn't install, it didn't work, chances are it won't work again. You can move your server to different nodes if you have several. You can suspend it, and then there's also the option to delete it. So that's everything in there. So now if we go on to adding in extra users, so the way that you do that, just come in here, click on Create New, put an email, username, the first, second, and then also there's only the one language. However, if you wanted to find a way to install more languages, then you'd be able to change that for them there. Whether or not you want them to be administrator, and then provide them with a password. Now it says here this is optional, and it is, because it should prompt them to pick a password when they get an email about it. However, I find that the emails going out is a bit patchy, especially when you first set it up and you haven't messed around with the emails system, so I would recommend just setting them a password, which they can then change by just clicking up here and changing it here. You can also change their email if they wanted to, and you can also set up 2FA. So that is all that. So now actually I'm going to make a second user, and then I'll be right back with you. So now I've created a second user. If we sign out and sign back in as that second user, whoops, and then log in. As you can see, there is actually capture to make sure that you haven't got robots trying to sign in. Reasonable. There are no servers because I haven't set one up yet to be able to access it on this account. So I sign back in and go back in as the admin. Log in. Then in here, I can, in users, new user, the user email, Then I can give them access to, say, just the console and the start and stop commands. Invite user. So now, when I switch over, let's just go for login. As you can see, I've now got that first one. However, I can only access the console to start, stop, and restart it. I can't access all of the other things, and I definitely can't access the admin controls. So come back in here, back over to users, edit it, and then let's say I give them permission to read files, as well as, yeah, just read files. And I'll give them SFTP so I can show that. Save. So now if we sign out and go in as the other user, then when I come in, I've got a few more things. I've got settings, which gives me my personal, so the SFTP details. For me, these are completely different to those of the admin, because we have different passwords, as well as the server address. And then I can also go in here, and if you notice the upload buttons, they're gone. So as is, if I click here, I can download them, I can't delete them, and I can't actually go into any of them. I can just access the base ones, which is exactly what we want. So as you can see, if we now go in here, wait, no, it'd be the same. Copy. Okay, you can see it's found it. I've gone in with a different account completely. So that's adding other users to your panel. That should be everything that you need to know to get yourself started. If you have any problems with anything and need help, then feel free to either join my Discord or the Pterodactyl Discord. Both of them will be linked in the description below. And I hope that you all had a very good time watching this and found it very useful. Thanks for watching.